Hi everyone, welcome back to Paulina's Global Flavors. Tonight, guess what? We're gonna make pho. So this is my pho bowl soup, and this is my husband's pho bowl soup, and it's just gonna be yummy. So let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna go ahead and get our beef stock started for the pho, and I've got tons of oxtail here. Yummy! Oxtail, ooh, it's so plentiful. And what we'll put in the Instapot pot are simple ingredients just to get us started, and then we're gonna make another stock outside of the Instapot stock broth. But I wanna get these cooking real quick as opposed to boiling them for hours. Oh, I'm salivating for them to tenderize. So let's go ahead and get our Instapot pot ready, Instapot ready. And we're just gonna do about a quarter wedge of white onions, right? So if you were to measure that, I don't know, I would say that's probably a quarter to a half cup, but just guesstimate. So we'll stick that in there. And then we'll want cinnamon stick. So not a whole lot, and I have a little sliver or a little bark of cinnamon stick. We'll stick it in there. And ooh, so aromatic. Star anise, my jar of star anise, and we don't need a whole lot. I know some people are very sensitive to the star anise simply because it tastes and smells like licorice, but for pho it is very, very desirable, and it makes it flavorful and just so delicious. So we're just gonna put a star in there. I don't know if you can see this very well, but the star. Stick it in there, and then we'll want about a teaspoon of a variety of peppers, dried peppers, and we'll just stick that in there. And then bay leaf, you gotta have bay leaf. I'm just gonna put about 2.5 bay leaves in there. So just about that much. And again, we wanna draw out the aromatics, and that is pretty much it for my initial stock. Of course, we wanna put salt. So I'm going to do about a teaspoon of salt. Yes, a healthy teaspoon of salt in there. You can see. Oh. And then, ooh, oxtail, my favorite. So in pho, this is my favorite. You could do beef ribs, you could do other beef, but the oxtail is just yummy. So we'll stick that all in here, just like that. There is a half portion on the Instapot here. Right? So we're gonna fill, and if you hear that groaning, grunting noise, it is not me, it is Charlie Poo. He is just so excited about the beef. But we're gonna fill the Instapot to cover, completely cover, ooh, I'm spilling, to completely cover the oxtail. And I can't tell you how many cups these are. I mean, clearly this is 6 cups when you measure it out, but depending on how many oxtail segments you have, because it's one oxtail and they cut it up into segments, but depending on how many you have, you're going to gauge how much water you put in. And so you'll definitely want to make sure that you completely cover the oxtail, and then in it goes into the Instapot, and we're gonna cook that, I would say maybe 25 to 30 minutes. So we're gonna get that going. Oh no, I almost forgot my tomahawk ribeye steak. So the steaks that my husband and I ate, but we had leftovers, of course, and I had him break up the bones, and we're actually going to stick this in with our oxtail broth just to give it that more umami and beefy flavor. And so do not throw away your bones. I know Charlie Poo would want to eat this, but we're going to stick this in the Instapot and let it cook with all the other stuff. So yummy. I'm going to go do that, and then we'll get the other pot ready. I've switched views on my camera, and it was because my camera was running out of battery, running out of juice, and so now I'm back to fully juiced, and I'm going to show you how we pull together the other spices for the non-Instapot stock pot that's boiling behind me. Ah, that's boiling behind me here. We're going to get started on assembling our little like tea steeper thing, and it's so cute. This holds about, I would say a full cup of yumminess. And think of it as a giant tea bag, but a giant soup stock bag. It's kind of cute. So what I have in here is the stalks of cilantro and also parsley. So all in all, I would say about a 1/4 cup each of cilantro and parsley. Ooh, I'm salivating because I can smell the beef stock and it smells so delicious. And then we're also going to cut up a stalk of celery. And you'll want to make sure you cut it up into manageable chunks so that way it fits in here. And it's okay if some are sticking out because, you know, this will cover it up. But you can buy this at Amazon, and I will send a link in the description of this video with where you can get some of the cooking equipment and cooking utensils for pho. So here this is. And then I would say about a cup of onions, if you were to chop it up. And then, of course, about a tablespoon of ginger. We've got bay leaf. And then I would say about, if you were to ground this up into a powder, maybe half a teaspoon of cinnamon bark. And then a medium-sized star anise. And then I roasted a variety of baby onions the other night for our tomahawk ribeye steak that I forgot to showcase in the video. And so these are roasted, they smell divine, and I think they would add just a depth of aromatic flavoring to the pho stock. So we're going to do that. If you don't have this prepared, what you can do is roast probably 2 heads of shallots or fresh shallots, and that can go in here. And of course, if everything fits in here. So I'm going to scoop in my teaspoon of varieties of dried peppers. Stick that in there. And then let's pack all of these in here, if we can. I'm going to use this as well. So there you have it. Oh, that is beautiful. Ta-da! And what we'll do is we will carefully affix this to each other. And I'm going to, there we go. And then you seal it right here. You can see the little nubby thing. Press it in and then twist. And it basically locks it into place. There you go. And it's going to go into our boiling stock pot with just water and salt. Yummy. Pooh Bear likes to look at this. You are getting sleepy. 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 Okay, so here we go. Ooh, that's so fun to do. And I can already smell the aromatics from the boiling water. Now, of course, this is boiling water, so you want to be careful not to just hover over this for too long. And then this little hook, just stick it on the edge like that. And then we're going to let this boil on medium-high. So I'm going to turn this down to, or actually medium, because with the lid on, it's just going to boil. And then we'll wait until this is done. We've got 25 more minutes left. Ooh, exciting. Since we are on the protein track, we're going to get the protein garnishes ready. And so what I have here is Angus. You could do a cheap top sirloin. Make sure it doesn't have a lot of fat, otherwise it's going to be too fatty in your pho soup. So we'll just cut this up. Now, this is not going to be cooked until tender like the other beef, like the ribs or the oxtail. We're going to blanch this. When we're ready to assemble our pho bowl soup. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically trimming off the excess fat, and you don't need to necessarily throw this away because this would go in hamburger meat, but we want this, I like it as lean as possible. Again, you know, this is up to you. And you can slice it really thin, so this is very thin. You can slice it a little bit chunkier, like that. I like it like that. Let me go ahead and finish this off. So I have the beef all cut up, sliced, and ready for yumminess. And then I've got already three Asian meatballs that I've cut into halves. There are 3 and then halves, and then I did crisscrosses, so that way when they boil in water, they'll bloom out and be all pretty and just looking delicious to go in your mouths. I'm going to show you this technique really quick. It doesn't require a lot of skill, but you just basically take 1 meatball. Now, Asian meatballs are very different from the Italian meatballs. They're very dense. They're very dense, and of course this doesn't look round, but when you boil it, because this came out of the freezer, it's going to be more rounded, and then we're going to cut these little slits, so make an X. You can even do a star. I know it's hard to see, but yeah, I'm sure it's hard to see. Anyways, it's a star, and that way when it boils in water, it'll increase in size slightly, and then this will bloom out. And again, I'm salivating. So the other way you can do it is just make a slit and then do a slit vertically. Well, I don't know if you can see that, but there you go. So all in all, a total of 6 meatballs for my husband and I. Now, 3 meatballs each, but when you cut it into halves, you've got a lot of meatballs, right? So here, and again, these will expand. We also have the oxtail. We also have the top sirloin that we're going to blanch in boiling water. So what is blanching? So I've got several mesh strainers here, the mesh strainers, and this one is typically found in the Western grocery stores, at Albertsons, at Walmart, Fred Meyer's. But this is not ideal for pho because look how shallow it is in comparison to, the big boy, something like this, because you don't want anything that's going to go in these metal mesh to come undone or to flop out, and then you'll have a mess. So we're not going to use this. Instead, we're either going to use this or this. This is for a baby. This is for my family. So I go big or go home, right? But this is what we're going to use for the pho noodles, but also to blanch the sirloin strips. And blanching is basically an immersion of raw meats or raw vegetables, and you immerse it in boiling water real quick, so for a brief moment, and then you shock it in ice water. But we're not going to shock anything or anyone because it's going to be fine, right? We want it hot. We want it to be at an even temperature, a balanced temperature with the pho bowl, because if you shock it in ice cold water, then it's just, you're going to have hot pho and then semi-cold blanched beef. And we're going to blanch it to a temperature of medium, not medium well, not well, but medium. But again, it is completely up to you because it's your pho dinner, so whatever you want to do. That will be towards the end. This will go into the stock, the pho broth, when it's boiling, and we will probably boil it for about, 5 minutes or so. Well, once it floats up and it starts blooming, you'll see then these are ready. So let's talk about the meatballs. These are Asian meatballs again, not to be confused with the Italian meatballs. Asian meatballs, Italian meatballs. Asian meatballs are smaller, Italian meatballs are big and breadcrumby, whereas the Asian meatballs are dense. So this is the brand I like to buy. You can buy it at the Asian store. And In the Lao language, we call this brand Ngua Lep Lean. Ngua Lep Lean, which means cow with its tongue sticking out, right? Because the cow has its tongue sticking out. So that is the brand. So if I were to tell somebody who is Lao and speaks Lao and understands Lao to go to the Asian store and get meatballs, they might ask, what kind of brand do you like? And I will say, Ngua Lep Lean, which is the brand where the cow is sticking out its tongue. Anyways, there you go. Ooh, I'm so excited. It is almost dinner time, and I'm going to bring you down to the counter, and I'm going to start explaining how we begin to assemble all of this. So this is fresh pho noodles. You can see it better here, maybe, right? And fresh. So fresh pasta is more than likely, perhaps always better than dried pasta. So you can get this at the Asian store in the refrigerator section and just buy them fresh. And these are the thin noodles as opposed to the wider noodles, so make sure you get that one. But if you like the wider one, that's perfectly okay as well. What I did with this was I soaked it in lukewarm water and just rinsed out the leftover starch in the noodles, because when they slice the noodles and wad it together, it still has remnants, more like a chalky feel to it, and so you'll want to rinse that out. And this is what it looks like after you rinse and then drain it. So see the thinner noodles, and it's bendable because it's fresh noodles. And so how do you put this in the bowl? So if you don't soak it in warm water or semi-warm water, then what you'll want to do is use your metal mesh strainer and blanch it in boiling water or the pho broth just to soften it. Otherwise, it might be too al dente. And if you like that, great, but for pho noodles, it's not ideal to be too al dente. So I would just take, now remember, these will shrink when they go into hot water. So I would say my portion, and what you'll want to do, so this is pretty long, as you can tell, right? Super long. So you'll just take it about 5 inches and just wad it together like that. And just make somewhat of a bird's nest, if you will. So there, like a bird's nest. And you'll just put it in your pho bowl like that. Now that's going to shrink to less than half. So I'm going to do another. All in all, it's probably going to be about 3/4 cup of noodles when it's blanched. Another bird's nest right there. Because I've soaked this in warm water, I don't need to pre-blanch. I can basically ladle the hot pho broth over this, and oh, it's just going to be perfect. Perfectly al dente for pho noodles. And you'll see that I've got vegetables here, and I've got additional herbal garnishing, so not chives, but green onions, cilantro cut up. And then I've got my Thai basil. Thai basil works very well for pho, not Italian basil, not purple basil. But if you like it, and if the distinction in the flavor is not significant for you, then by all means try the other basils. But I just prefer Thai basil in my pho noodle soup because it's Southeast Asian dish, and so it just goes well. Here you have it. Ta-da! Ta-da! You're wondering, what is this? So let me bring this over, and I'm going to put this on last in my pho bowl, right, the herbs, and simply because I do like a little bit of bite to it. I don't like it too wilty, and so I don't want it to be continually cooking in the broth, so I will garnish it. I might put the green onions in because I do want that cooked, just because I have a slight allergy to the green onions. But for all of you who don't have any issues, garnish it on top, and it's really pretty to take pictures and post it on Facebook or any social media platform, and you can show off your creation. Here is the display of ideal vegetables For pho, we have to have bean sprouts. I didn't sprout these myself. I bought this at the store. But bean sprouts is a must, especially for Southeast Asian soups, and this just goes very nicely with the pho. And then, of course, the Thai basil, and green onions, and then, of course, cilantro. So you can also pluck fresh cilantro and garnish it on top, or chop it up, like how I did here. Green onions and cilantro chopped up together. Let's come back to what did I have in my bowl? These green, leafy greens. It is actually watercress. So you can buy this type of watercress at the Asian market. I have found some at Fred Meyer's and sometimes at Albertsons, and they are not the same species of watercress. These are ideal because of how thick and porous the stem are, and it snaps like that. And so this is ideal for pho. It's so good, and it just is so crisp and cooling to the taste, and it's just, I don't know how to explain it other than yummy. So is this required? Absolutely not. Okay, Charlie Poo approves us going to the next steps. Right, so here are our slices of sirloin, yummy, ready to go. And then I have an array of different condiments to spice up and just flavor our pho, which is very traditional to do. We've got fried garlic, very important. Fried onions or fried shallots, another ingredient of importance. Crispy chili, pepper, oil, yummy. Oh, I'm salivating. Preserved cabbage, which is my favorite. It has a tangy, salty flavor, so yummy. Optional, of course. And garlic, chili sauce, yummy. White pepper, cracked black pepper, fish sauce, optional. I like fish sauce in my pho. Oyster sauce, I actually like this in pho as well. You've got seasoning sauce, which is my preference over soy sauce, but it's up to you. I really like this in pho instant beef. Flavor paste, a little goes a long way. I would say half a teaspoon in your pho broth or a quarter teaspoon, especially if you're going to put all of these savory condiments in your pho. And then sesame oil is not a traditional ingredient in pho soup, but my husband loves it and I want him to enjoy it. You can tell he's enjoyed quite a bit. So there's that. And all of that will go into your pho bowl. This is my husband's pho bowl, and this is my pho bowl, right? Go big or go home. Yummy. I like the big bowl simply because I can stir and mix without things splattering over, but then one could argue, well, why would you want to fill it all the way to the top when you can just maybe minimize it and go with this normal size pho bowl that will hold, I would say, 3 cups, whereas this can hold 6 cups of broth. The first thing you want to do before you start piling on all those savory condiments and sauces is to taste your pho broth and make sure it's not too salty or not too bland, right? If it's too salty, add more water. If it's too bland, maybe add more salt. But you can hold on, right? If it's too bland, go ahead and start assembling your pho bowl with the condiments. I'm an experienced pho eater, so I know how much to put in. But for if you're not an experienced pho eater, meaning you don't know how to portion out the savory condiments, then do a little bit at a time, a little bit and taste, a little bit and taste. And you don't want to forget the star ingredient. And I keep salivating because it's almost time, but lemons, I've got one that's almost ripening, that's why it's turning color, and then I've got one that is green. So these are both good, but we're going to probably use the one that's starting to ripe more so than the other one, just because we want to use it all up. So we're going to get started, and I can't wait to show you my pho and how delicious it is. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of these in my pho bowl. And of course, it is so important that you taste the broth first, because if the broth is a little bit too salty, you'll want to lighten up or omit some of these ingredients. But if the broth needs a little bit more savoriness to it, then you can go to town with all of this. So we're going to go ahead and do that and then get our pho ready. Okay, it is the final minute and we are ready. So I've got my pho bowl here assembled, and then I've got the oxtail here. Oh my gosh, yummy. Now you can cut up the oxtail or assemble it however you'd like. The small ones, I like it for show purposes, but these big ones here, these bigger ones in comparison to the smaller one, you'll want to cut up. Ooh, I'm salivating, and this is from the rib meat from my leftover tomahawk steak. And I'm not wearing my gloves, but oh well, I'm getting hungry. So when I removed this from the Instapot, the broth has a lot of the fat, the oil in it, and I used a fat or oil separator here, and you can see the oil at the top here, and then it strains out the clearer liquid, and this is what I want to pour into the other pot with water and all the other condiments and the spices in that giant tea bag, that metal mesh tea bag. And so I did that already. I tasted it and it was perfect. The broth was just absolutely perfect. And now I'm letting it boil, and then we're going to pour it over here and we're just going to enjoy it. Yummy. I mean, this is so tender that you can actually separate it with your fingers. See how easy that is? Now this is cooled off a bit, so it's not so hot on my fingers, but it is hot enough that you want to be careful. Charlie Poo is like right here, right next to me, waiting for a nugget of meat to fall over. So yummy, look at that. And we just cut that in manageable, yummy chunks, however you want it. You can go big, you can go small. Make sure not to choke on it. Have liquids ready to swallow it down because the pho broth will be hot. But ooh, look at that, yummy. Ooh, this is ready. So I'm going to go ahead and ladle some meatballs. Now this is huge. This, in comparison to this little thing, right? We've got this versus this. Okay, so here we go. And we're just going to pour it over like that. And that way it blanches the vegetables, the bean sprouts, and of course the pho. I think that's all I want on there. And then I'm going to assemble this, my oxtail nuggets of yumminess for decoration. Ooh. Okay, so now we've got the beef sirloin that we're going to blanch, and we just dunk it in there, swirl it around. So you see the blanching? And I want mine medium. That looks like a little bit medium rare earlier, but I think that's perfect. Maybe one more dunk, because these were thicker slices. Oh, and that's perfect. I have my pho bowl here with me. It's beautiful. And the last thing I'm going to put in are the shallots. Ooh, I put in a little bit too much. Oops. But that's okay. It'll be so yummy. And then the fried garlic. And then, of course, the basil. So I'm just going to just garnish like that. Ooh. Even though I put some in earlier, but black pepper is key. You just mix it all together. Ooh. But look at that. Now that is a yummy pho bowl right there. Yummy. Oh wow, that's so good. So good, and I didn't even put lime in there. So I'm gonna squeeze that in there. It's good, I didn't even notice because I have that fermented cabbage, which is tart. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is delicious. Oh my goodness, I forgot the blanched beef. My blanched beef, cannot forget that. That's a lot of protein, but I love it. Right? Voila. Oh my gosh, out of this world. You gotta try this. This is delicious. Thank you for watching Polina's Global Flavors. I can't wait for you to try this recipe. This is my own recipe. Every pho broth, every pho stock is different. It all depends on the amount of water, what kind of beef you're using for your stock. You could do chicken as well, but this is beef pho at best. Yummy. Have a good night.